We are the Lab Doctors. I'm Amanda.
I'm Dorothy.
And I'm Zhao Yong.
We are biomedical researchers who realized we still have a lot to learn about science.
So why not join us on this quest?
Hey guys, hope you've been enjoying Food Month. So on this episode of Today We Learn, we will be talking about something inherently divisive, which is food preferences. So in case you are unaware, Today We Learn episodes are the ones where we answer questions based on what we already know. And then in part 2, we go home, we do some research, and then we come back in part 2 to tell you what we have discovered.
So we thought about this topic, like on food preferences, because actually it was super random. Like we had troubles thinking of what to do for Food Month because it's so last minute.
Yeah.
Due to the whole pandemic and things. But it just suddenly occurred to me like, why do we have different preferences for food?
Right.
You know, because from what I know, our taste buds, our tongues should all be the same, where like this certain taste bud is at this area and so on. But why do we like different things? Okay, so let's go into taste buds first. So we know like taste buds, what we commonly study is that our tongue can be separated in 4 parts. Correct me if I'm wrong, okay? But like this is what I remember from
Primary school?
secondary school or something.
Yeah.
Primary? Maybe primary.
Yeah.
But our tongue has 4 different taste areas. So sweet, salty, sour, and bitter.
Right.
And if you actually pay attention, apparently, like let's say you eat something bitter like medicine, one part of your tongue would feel it. And then if you eat something salty, it's another part of your tongue that feels it.
Oh,
yeah,
is it?
Because it's separated into like 4 areas in your tongue, on your tongue.
Yeah, so I guess in my mind, I keep thinking that that's just very arbitrary. I never really go and notice where
I think you have to notice
I feel it. Okay.
I think you have to
Tonight,
notice.
for dinner, I will try
Actually,
and notice it.
I also don't think I tried it before, but I think sometimes something will be a bit more tingly and you know.
Yeah, but I mean, fun experiment. Y'all should all try it, listeners.
Oh yeah, we should.
Yeah, try it and let us know, do you feel different areas of your tongue taste different things?
When you said the sweet, salty, sour, bitter, I already see the graphical representation of the tongue, with the different colors. That's what y'all learn in
Yeah,
school,
and then
right?
they cut it up. The
Yeah.
two sides,
Yeah.
There's
the
2
behind.
sides.
Yeah.
This side is sweet, and then it's like blue, red, yellow, green. But I think we also learned about umami, right? The 5th taste. So that's in the middle for sure. That's the only one I remember where it is. Everything else I have no idea.
What is umami? The closest thing I can think of is salty, but it isn't
level
specifically
higher
different from
than
Yeah,
salty.
exactly. Like I only heard of this term umami in the last few years only. And it's
Really?
because like spring leaf prata has an umami prata. Umami 50. And it's
does that
pretty
mean?
good. It's
They
like,
just
I
like-
love it.
They just put a lot of MSG, is it? Is
Yeah,
that how
okay, so
they-
They
that's
put,
why
like,
I
a lot
first
of
heard of umami is MSG, because that's their major selling point. The MSG is umami.
But isn't MSG salt?
Yeah, that's why. To
Is
me,
it
it's just
salt?
salty. I don't see the difference between umami and salty.
Yeah, I thought umami was just some random. It's like a term they came up with to talk about
Salty.
a taste they cannot describe.
Oh.
Like everything else is the others category. That's what I thought it was. I actually don't know.
I honestly don't know, because...
I didn't know there was a region on the tongue for it.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't know that there was a region
It's
of the tongue
in the
also.
tongue diagram. It's in the middle.
It's not. There was only 4 parts on the tongue diagram as far as I remember.
In my defense,
Umami is just salty. It's just
we had
salty,
this field
okay?
trip in primary school where we went to the Ajinomoto factory. Ajinomoto being the MSG
Oh wow, we
brand.
had a
MSG,
trip to the
yeah.
Ajinomoto factory.
Yeah, actually, because my dad used to be, his company used to be the supplier for Ajinomoto. I'm pretty sure he's the one that helped
Arranged it.
to organize it. Yeah.
Wow.
And then they were
So
talking
cute.
about umami, and then one of the things they said is that MSG doesn't cause hair loss and stuff. Yeah.
I thought it does. Isn't that the rumor?
Well, because you come from the
the same.
Ajinomoto
Well,
factory.
I mean, if you're
think
going
you
to the
can.
Ajinomoto factory, obviously they're
right,
not
of
gonna
course.
say that. But yeah, I'm pretty sure umami is in the middle of the tongue. Maybe that's where I saw the diagram. I'm not sure. Okay, but how do taste buds work then? So it's taste receptors, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
different taste receptors for different foods.
Yeah, so basically, I think how it works is the different compounds that register for different tastes bind to different receptors, and then
Yeah.
they send signals to our brain, and our brain is the one that is generating these tastes.
Okay, the
Yeah.
only thing I can think of is all the different sugars, like glucose, that breaks down into
Yeah.
all those things. So that will trigger the sweet taste receptors, is it?
Right,
Uh-huh.
right, right.
And
Yeah,
then acidic things would trigger the sour.
Yeah.
And then I'm assuming there are other things that will trigger. I don't know what's the salty compound. Salt?
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
no idea, so I don't know what kind of receptors there are, but it's G carboprotein receptors.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
But I don't know like what is it different downstream pathways after the receptors. Or maybe the receptors also are different.
So it's the different
okay.
compounds that trigger different receptors.
Yeah.
I would think so, yeah. Because I feel like that's how artificial sweeteners work. You know, like how the artificial sweeteners in like Coke Zero.
Yeah.
You know how people say like, how come Coke Zero is sweet even though there's no sugar?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's because they have these compounds that, you know, look similar to like glucose or something, and we register as sweet. But actually it doesn't have sugar, like glucose per se. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's so smart.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So is that why people like different food?
Oh, is it?
Because of the different receptors on their tongue.
So that's the thing that doesn't
But
make
everyone
sense
has
to
the
me.
same receptors, right?
Yeah. So like, let's say, okay, evolutionarily we think sweet is good because it gives us glucose. But there are people who don't like sweet things.
Oh,
And
right.
as you grow older, even the same person.
when you're when you're older.
Yeah, as in, it doesn't make sense to me because it's like, shouldn't everyone's preferences be the same? Or is it...
So my theory that I just thought of like 5 minutes ago is that even though generally there are 4 or 5, I don't know, regions on their tongue, maybe different people express like different numbers in the end.
Okay.
So that's one theory. The other theory is that the number of nerves signaling the signals to your brain is different. So maybe if there's more signals that just maybe you inherently have more nerves connecting to the sweet part of your brain, then you would just enjoy sweet things more.
Oh.
I have no idea. I just came up with that.
As in, I think there's probably some truth to it. As in, the other thing is also, I think we also have preferences for what our body kind of needs.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how true this is, but apparently people who use their brain more tends to like sweet things more.
Because your brain consumes glucose.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing your brain wants.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh, is that why like when you're a baby you like sweet things, and then when you become adults and we become lazy, then we don't like sweet things anymore?
As in, that might be possible. As in, I know children in general like sweet things because they require a lot of glucose, you know, to grow and for their brain to develop as well. And so that's why children, like in general, you feel like most children like sweet things. Yeah, so I think there's some truth to it.
They definitely don't like bitter things.
Yeah. And
And
as you grow
bitter has to
older...
be trained. You have to like train yourself to like bitter things, I feel.
Also, that's my theory, is conditioning.
Okay.
Why people like different foods is conditioning. So, I mean, not 100% conditioning, but it's mostly conditioning. You just like the things that you are exposed to because it is familiar.
Oh,
and then the
yes.
more familiar it is, the more comfortable you are with eating it. And then suddenly because you've eaten it so many times, you suddenly recognize the nuances in the same meal.
Yeah.
And then your brain appreciates it more. So I don't know, but I'm a firm believer in like food preferences is because of conditioning.
I agree with you.
Okay.
It's like maybe it's linked to your happy memories or something, and this certain food triggers this part of your brain which is like maybe more connected to a certain memory.
Yeah. And it's
I
not
feel
just
like
taste,
someone
it's
should
smell
do a
as
study
well.
on this.
Yeah, talking about the memory thing, so definitely I feel like there's some level of our conscious minds attributing certain tastes to certain memories, because I was taking a mod previously and then the prof was talking about how she can no longer eat honey stars because she didn't accidentally, but she wanted to taste how her breast milk tastes like. So
My goodness.
she
So
put
she
her
put the
breast
honey
milk
stars in.
with honey stars and then she ate it and she hated the taste. So from then onwards she couldn't eat honey stars anymore, because whenever she does, she remembers how breast milk tastes. And so I feel like there's
terrible, I
definitely...
presume. Diluted milk, that's what I heard breast milk tastes like.
I don't know, is that what...
Yeah, that's
I
what I
honestly
heard.
can't remember.
But I have no idea.
what- I mean, I was a baby, so I don't, I don't
Neither do
know
we.
what breast milk tastes like. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so I feel like there's definitely some conditioning, like either positive or negative, would affect your preferences as well.
And I think
for sure.
so another thing about conditioning is exposure and how much you are exposed to it. So I think, I don't know, like when I was younger, my family eats a lot of different types of food. And then I feel that now I'm not as picky in terms of what I want to eat because I've tried all these things before. So I'm not scared to try different things. So in the end, my food preferences is wider because I've tried all this before and I've been exposed to it, so it's fine. But I don't know, that's one of the things with conditioning that I think about. Okay, so speaking of conditioning and training, I think the other kind of food that my family, when we were young, we had to train, so-called, is eating spicy food. So yeah, we would eat whoever was cooking, so my grandmother or my aunties or my mom or whoever would cook only one batch of food. There wouldn't be a spicy and non-spicy. There will be only one, and then if you don't eat it, then you just don't eat. So then in the end, everyone has to eat the spicy food. So is it considered a taste?
Yeah, I don't think it's a taste. It's more of a feeling.
Then where does it come from?
Capsaicin.
Yeah.
Wait, so it's your entire tongue. I feel like every time I eat something too spicy, your entire tongue is like numb and your lips are numb as well.
Right.
So where is the spiciness receptor for this capsaicin?
Okay, so capsaicin is the compound in chilies or spicy stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it activates, I think, everywhere.
No, I think there are certain areas of your body that actually are unable to detect it because they don't have the receptors.
Oh.
So, like, let's say, if I'm not wrong, your skin, it depends on which part of your skin, but I think
Your
if you put
fingers
it,
can.
I think the parts that are less sensitive, so maybe like your arm or, I don't know, your torso. But then areas that are important, like your eyes.
Oh, yes, the eyes.
If you gonna like chili or something in your eye, it hurts a lot. But I think it's your body's natural,
Immunity.
protection against it.
Protection.
Yeah, so like let's say in the wild, if you accidentally stab your eye against chili or something, then like to blink and to get it out of your eye because it's actually hurting you or something.
It's supposed to be like to a certain level toxin, like what you said in one of the episodes before.
Yeah, I think so. It's not actually something that is good, I think, necessarily.
So there's receptors in the mouth, right? That is...
I guess so.
But it's like after that, technically there's still capsaicin in your stomach. Okay, I feel like your stomach can feel it sometimes also.
Yeah, it's burning.
Yeah, but your small intestines, your colon, you actually don't really feel it. But then you might feel the urge to, go purge yourself.
Yeah.
Because it actually is still affecting your gastrointestinal system.
You just don't feel
it. Doesn't have
sensation.
either the receptors or the nerves to detect it.
So is it bad to eat spicy food then?
I think
it's a train.
everything.
You can train, but in moderation,
Yeah.
Like if you poison yourself then with chili, then chili overload, then obviously you're gonna die.
Yeah, like the ghost peppers, I'm pretty sure people died.
Yeah.
But why though? It's just overload of receptors, or it burns their stomach, or...
I feel like it burns your stomach. Maybe it makes a hole.
Or like a hole, like an actual like physical hole.
Yeah, I feel like there's something about chili that burns you. Like if you touch it, your skin is also like sometimes it can burn. So I feel like if there's too much,
so
something's just gonna burn your stomach.
About the skin, right? I was reading because that day one of our colleagues gave me green chili and I thought it would be not spicy, but it was super spicy, so I cut it without gloves. And my hands were burning for the longest time. But then I was reading up about it, and apparently if it's on your hands, right, the residue of the capsaicin, it's not actually burning your fingers, so you won't get burns from the chili residue.
Okay.
But it's just activating your receptors.
Like pain receptor or what?
Pain receptors.
But I feel like sometimes it also becomes red, right? Or am I crazy?
My finger, anecdotal, but my fingers went red. So they said it's not actually hurting you. So actually, the best thing to do if you can't remedy it is to just give it time and then it will go away because it's not hurting you. So is it different if it's in the stomach because there's acid and everything and then there's some reaction that burns a hole in your stomach?
Yeah, maybe there's some reaction.
I feel like it might actually be dangerous in your stomach because it's actually generally less tough than your skin on the outer surface.
Yeah, because your skin is supposed to protect you anyway, so...
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess we have quite a lot of homework to do. We have to first find out, our taste buds. Are they separated into the 4 common tastes that we learned? Or is it like what Amanda said, there's a 5th? umami taste? And what about spiciness? Is there another type of taste that we can taste as well? And therefore, with this, can we explain why people like different kinds of food? Is it just purely because of our mouth? What's on our mouth, what's in our mouth, or is it because of the brain or other things like that? So stay tuned. Hi everyone, welcome back to part 2 of food preferences. So we're going to discuss about like why people have different food and is there a fifth taste and stuff like that. So first things first, how do taste buds work?
Okay, so I still don't really know how taste buds work. There were many reviews that tell me how taste buds work.
Yeah, actually when I researched, there was too much information.
There's a lot, surprisingly a lot of information on taste.
I guess people care.
Yeah. Food is life.
Yeah, exactly. To just briefly summarize on how taste buds work. So each taste bud has about 10 to 50 sensory cells. And I'm just like, 10 to
That's
50, the range is damn big.
No, also there's very few cells, right?
Maybe 10 when you're old and 50 when you're young.
Yeah, maybe. So like we previously mentioned, there are receptors on the surfaces of these sensory cells. And when food molecules bind to these receptors, they trigger signals to be transmitted, and then these signals travel through our nervous system to our brain, and then it goes to the sensory perception parts of our brain, and that's where the taste and smell signals get mixed together and combined to form what we classically know as taste, Because, sometimes people say 80% of taste is actually smell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you block your smell, you only notice the 5 tastes.
Yeah.
Which is a wonderful segue. What taste exists? So I think we first talked about the position of the different sour taste buds at the sides, is it? And then the bitter is at the back. But actually there's a very big misconception. So taste and the different tastes can actually be sensed throughout the entire tongue. It is actually people just have a very bad understanding of the original picture that was shown on the...
So it's all a lie, that picture with the different colors?
Yeah.
It's a lie.
Yeah. So the picture that we all remember, apparently that is erroneous, and then people just keep propagating that, and it's still being propagated today. So, the lab doctors, we are clarifying right now that is a misconception. You can taste all taste throughout the entire tongue.
Suddenly in 5 years' time, they tell us that it's actually real.
Yeah.
Well, science is always changing anyway.
It's true. Pluto is no longer a planet. Anyway. So, but the only thing that is relatively consistent and correct is that nearer the back of the tongue is where more bitter taste buds can be found. So that's because bitterness is typically in the natural world is associated with poisons, and so if that type of poisonous food gets to the back of our throat, it actually triggers a reflex for us to puke it out and spit it out. Yeah, so that's why bitter receptors, is more at the back of the tongue. And so going to the taste, so yes, there are 5 tastes, so that's sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and also savory or umami. I still don't believe umami.
Umami is a thing.
It wasn't in our science textbook. Science has changed. Again.
Times might have changed. But okay, this is the descriptor that I got on what is umami. Okay. So you tell me if this is different from salty, because it just sounds like salty.
Elevated saltiness.
So the umami taste is supposedly somewhat similar to the taste of a meat broth. Meat broth tastes salty to me. So what is umami? But okay, so it is triggered by these chemicals known as glutamic acid or aspartic acid. So if you remember the first part, we were talking about umami and MSG. So MSG is actually glutamate or glutamic acid salt. So it is responsible for that umami taste. But again, I'm like, it just tastes salty to me. MSG just tastes salt. It's my palate not refined? It's not elevated. Is it me? Do y'all taste the difference?
I don't really agree. Because how is it fair? Why is meat broth attributed to one taste on its own? What about every other single food on the planet?
It's like
it's so specific.
I feel like if that's the case, umami is just a specific type of salty, but it's still salty, you know? It's not...
They should say this is the taste of meat broth, not umami.
Okay, so I have this atas friend, right, who he loves to cook. So he says purportedly that umami is when you can feel the middle of your tongue kind of... He said light up, but I forgot what's the word.
But you can
activated, I
taste
guess.
everywhere. Scientifically, you can taste
but
everywhere.
specifically,
umami.
because you did say that umami... Oh, did you? The umami taste is generally in the middle of the tongue zone, right? Is it?
No,
Oh.
I never said that.
I don't know. Actually, I just think it's nuanced like saltiness, but it's very similar to saltiness. So it's like it's salty but with more flavor, I would say.
To me, it's just an elevated, like what you said, it's an elevated form of salty, but it's still under the umbrella of salty.
I guess
to
people
me.
find it different enough to call it something else. That's why.
Yeah, so that's why I was saying maybe it's, my palate is just
Unrefined.
terrible.
Okay, but honestly, I don't really know also. But some things just taste nicer, and then you it's not because it's more salty, it's because, because some things are just salty and not tasty, but some things are salty and tasty.
Okay,
I think it's that.
Okay.
To me, that's
think,
what umami
I
is.
think
Convinced?
maybe. It's still
A little bit
elevated salty,
more.
so it's still under salty to me.
Yeah.
But there's different, you
Anyway.
agree that there's different kinds of saltiness, right?
But there's also different kinds of sweetness to me, so it's like,
It's
doesn't
not
really
fair.
mean much. So let's move on to a bit. I think we also talk about taste buds and age. So, yep, it's true that in general, children prefer sweets, or rather, children to about teenage adolescents, they typically prefer sweets and calorie-rich foods because they need it for growth and development, which I think we also mentioned.
Yeah.
But also, there's a preference, but that doesn't mean that it can't be trained. So, if children like sweet things, and I think Dorothy will talk about this a bit, but if they like sweet things and you encourage them liking the sweet thing, then they would also prefer sweet things in adulthood subsequently. Yeah. And also then, in general, children also don't like bitter things because at that point, during development, supposedly, kids don't really know what is poisonous and what's not poisonous. And so the bitter taste is slightly stronger so that they would spit out any bitter things. Because,
So that they won't be poisoned.
Yeah, so they don't kill themselves by randomly putting stuff into their mouths.
Yeah.
So yeah, speaking about food preferences, I think Dorothy would go into why we have food preferences.
Yeah, so like what Zhao Yong said about children being more inclined to sweet food,
Yeah.
but there are conflicting views, obviously.
Of course.
There is no, some people say that there's no clear relationship between age and food consumption, and this would be more towards the elderly. Like you would hear people say like, oh, if you're older, because you're less sensitive to the sweetness or the saltiness, you would want to add more sugar and salt.
Right.
And this might not be true.
But I don't know about y'all. So when I was young, I tend to like sweet things more, very sweet things. But then around this age, I don't really like things that are too sweet. Do y'all feel that way also?
I feel that way too. Yes.
I know that there's a correlation between the amount of taste buds you have and age. So like, let's say the older you get, your taste buds renew at a slower rate.
Oh.
So that's why like in general, there's still an average decrease in the amount of taste buds.
Yep.
So that's why there can be decreased taste. But I think what Dorothy was saying is that it's because we are intelligent, supposedly, beings.
Yeah.
So,
as
so
in
we
this
can
is
still
more about-
control.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is more on like what you like doesn't necessarily equal what you eat.
Yeah.
So like
Exactly.
Oh.
as we maybe there's a lot of other factors which we cannot cover today, but for age wise it might be due to like the social and economic status that you have as you grow older, and also social nutrition, like what people tell you is good for you
Right.
and bad for you, and therefore your perception of what you would eat is different as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So other than that, there's a lot of other things. It can be non-scientific, like product safety, price of the food, convenience, prestige, demographics, social economy, and economic factor, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But I will just highlight whatever I think I can highlight today.
Okay.
So let's go for the mouth and the nose part already first, since we were talking about the taste buds. So the nose and the mouth, we can perceive fat soluble volatile molecules.
Whoa,
So
okay.
this is more related to fat.
Right.
And then after that, you can feel the food texture when you are chewing or swallowing. And one of the study found also that fat perception can be affected by a fatty taste receptor known as CD36, and this is found in your mouth.
Okay.
This study only had 21 participants, but they found that those who produced more of the CD36 protein were 8 times more sensitive to fat content than those who made 50% less of this protein.
Wow.
In addition, having a high-fat diet could reduce the amount of CD36 being produced, and that would make the person less sensitive to fat. So they want to eat more to get the same level of satisfaction.
It's like smoking.
Yeah.
Fats are like smoking.
I guess it's like most addictions.
Yeah. For what Zhao Yong said about the bitter taste receptor, yes, the sensitivity to bitter taste could be heritable. Those who are more sensitive to the bitter taste had the highest density of the fungiform papillae. So these are mushroom-like structures towards the back of your tongue, which is where the bitter part is supposed to be. And the sensitivity to bitter substances was also found to have more dislike for common foods, like a variety of vegetables, coffee, beer, and sharp cheeses. Most female alcoholics studied were found to be insensitive to bitter substances.
Oh.
Do you think that's the crazy part about us and coffee and beer and all these substances? Because they're naturally bitter,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
maybe our bodies are already naturally configured to believe that it is bad for us, and yet we still consume it by making it taste nicer, like adding milk and sugar to coffee.
Oh yeah, maybe.
It's like we are like poisoning ourselves when our body is already telling us don't consume it.
Maybe.
But some bitter things are good for you though. Vegetables.
true,
Most
vegetables.
vegetables. Like, not most vegetables. Bitter gourd, rocket.
Maybe bitter gourd aren't good.
Maybe it's good, but if you talk about evolutionary standpoint, like people who are in the wild,
Yeah.
they might be eating
Yeah.
any random plant and it might not be that safe.
Yeah.
Compared to eating, I don't know, berries in the
Right,
forest.
Some
Yeah,
berries
exactly.
are poisonous.
Are they bitter?
True.
I don't know.
Then you see the color, the brighter the fruit. I have no idea. Okay.
Okay, but moving on.
Interestingly, if genetic taste markers alter preferences for bitter foods and therefore consumption patterns, it may also be an indicator for some diet-related disease, if you understand what that means. So like, if your food preferences change, it might mean something more serious.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, let's go into brain part. So we talk about like how the brain is the brain helps to perceive taste coming from your nose and your mouth.
Yeah.
So a lot of the research is done on brain serotonin levels, so I'll just focus on this part.
Okay.
Brain serotonin levels are inversely related to cravings for carbohydrates but not proteins. So if you take drugs that increase serotonin levels, you will decrease carbohydrate intake. Okay, and the last point I'll be talking about is conditioning. So whether we can condition ourselves to like certain things. And indeed, some studies have found that taste preferences can be shaped by prior experiences and associative learning. So something that is neutral tasting or something that you dislike can actually become preferred if it's linked with a suitable mechanism of reward.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing maybe like if I was a child and my mother is like, I give you TV time for vegetables, I might eat more. I don't know.
Oh, parenting hacks.
Like how you train a dog.
Oh my gosh. You ring the bell and the child salivates.
Pavlov's.
Yeah, you're on the TV and the child's like, yes, I want vegetables.
Anyway, speaking of conditioning, one of the things we hear a lot on is whether we can train ourselves to eat spicy food. So, Amanda?
Okay, so if you realize one of the things that was lacking in what Zhao Yong was talking when he was talking about taste buds was spicy.
Right.
So the sensation of hot or spicy is actually not a taste, it's a sensation. The compound capsaicin is the chemical component found in spicy foods like hot pepper.
Yeah.
Basically, capsaicin can bind to a special class of vanilloid receptors inside our mouth called TRPV1. So TRPV1.
Okay.
So fun fact, or maybe not so fun fact if you don't care, it's a non-selective cation channel, not a G protein coupled receptor.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, it makes sense to me because cation receptors are like, related to action potential and sensation rather than, taste.
Yes.
So it makes sense.
Ah, okay, now I'm a bit confused because at first when you said that, I was like, so?
Okay, anyway, when capsaicin binds to these receptors, this TRPV1 causes the sensation of spiciness, which is a combination of heat and pain, or nociception.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so that's why you feel the burn and the heat, right?
Yeah.
So can eating spicy food be trained? So in theory, yes, because of desensitization. So
Of course.
upon prolonged exposure to capsaicin, TRPV1 activity decreases. So technically, the TRPV1 receptors can be trained to be desensitized to capsaicin over time, which means you perceive less of the heat and pain or burn from eating the spicy food. So similar to coffee, beer.
Like smoking and like...
Yeah. Because these are all desensitizations, right? Basically, you just need more to reach the same level. Or in this case, you can have the same amount and perceive less.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I actually didn't know this before, but capsaicin is actually also known for its pain-relieving properties. So it actually reduces pain by affecting the neurotransmitter, so the signals in your brain that communicates pain signals to the brain. So topical capsaicin creams have been used for the treatment of arthritis, diabetic neuropathy, and muscle pain. So it is not exactly harmful when capsaicin comes in contact with the skin. So similar to what happens on your tongue, capsaicin triggers the pain receptors and your brain is tricked into thinking you are in danger to prevent you from touching or ingesting more spicy food. So this is similar to like when you touch something hot.
Yeah.
And then you immediately retract because your brain is telling you, oh, this is bad.
Right.
So capsaicin has that similar feedback. It's just that it doesn't cause harm.
Right.
So it is an irritant, but in controlled or low doses, it is not harmful to us. So what about the stomach? Whilst you feel that burn, spicy food doesn't actually cause stomach ulcers. So capsaicin in fact inhibits the production of acid in the stomach. So it has been considered a medication for preventing ulcer development in people taking NSAIDs or non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. But capsaicin is still an irritant, and it can trigger upper GI symptoms or even symptoms of IBS or inflammatory bowel syndrome. So speaking of IBS, capsaicin irritates the small intestine where it moves along more quickly than normal and arrives at the colon. So the process normally slows down in the colon, but those receptors are being excessively activated, and as a defense, the colon speeds the whole process up. So the colon cannot absorb the water, thus causing watery diarrhea. Okay, this is kind of you. But yeah, that's why you...
That's so interesting.
And if you feel like your anus is on fire after eating spicy food, that's
Yes.
because there's remnants of capsaicin activating the TRPV1 receptors along the skin of your butt, basically.
Oh, this makes so much sense.
Yeah.
It's actually all the things we already know, I think. Then when I read it, I was thinking, oh my goodness. Okay, so the bottom line is spicy food in moderation is fine, but in excess, it can lead to gastrointestinal issues or irritating sensation. But you should also be careful of extremely spicy food, like ghost peppers. So high levels and concentration of capsaicin will exacerbate all the GI symptoms that we mentioned above. And on top of the capsaicin, the extreme burning sensation reportedly caused esophageal perforation in a man who ate ghost peppers.
Wow.
So basically, the esophagus was ruptured after eating ghost peppers.
Yeah.
But they said it was most likely due to the violent vomiting and not the capsaicin itself.
Oh,
but
okay.
That being
Okay.
said, the capsaicin triggered the violent vomiting, so you should still be careful. As in,
Yeah, man.
does that make sense? Yeah, so
Yeah.
spicy food is fine in moderation and just don't go overboard with the spicy because it can trigger a reaction that can cause harm.
I still find it very interesting that the anus has the TRPV1 receptor. It's like your
Yeah.
body trying to squeeze everything out at the last bit, It's like, just get it out of your system. It's like, it hurts, right? Get it out of your system.
And then it
I'm
makes
not
you
sure that-
remember, like, this is what you feel, okay?
Yeah.
As if the pain is not enough, your butt has to be on fire.
Yeah, but I think
Sorry.
there's TRPV1 receptors everywhere on the skin. It's just different levels. So on your fingertips and on your tongue, I guess it's more, and then so on and so forth. Yeah, so that's spicy food.
So hopefully you learned a lot with us. I feel like a lot of things suddenly make a lot of sense to me now. And if you have any other interesting food preference related stuff, do let us know. But as usual, follow us on Spotify and subscribe to our YouTube channel. A like and a comment would help us out.
You can also follow us on our social media, Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, and feel free to DM us any questions.
Alternatively, you can email us at thelabdoctors@gmail.com. You should check out the episode description for helpful links for everything that we've talked about. If you like this podcast, please share it with your friends. Thank you.
Thank you. In moderation, guys.
Thank you in moderation.
Yes.
No, just in moderation.
Did you know that even though you have different food preferences, it still all comes out the same? Poop Mug, where we talk about all fecal matters. Poop Mug, find out why you should give a crap. Poop Mug, and there is no shame in that. Join us for Poop Mug, only on the Lab Doctors Podcast.